learn your why. Why are you compelled to start a business? And
Huh.
assuming it's to make the world a better place, then use that in your decision making about your aspiration for the business.
Welcome to Mic Check, the next chapter. I'm your host, Kristin Guglielmo. Today I am joined by Peter Lundquist, Chief Operating Officer of Village Capital, an organization unlocking social and financial capital for impact, creating startups solving the world's biggest challenges. In this episode, Impact at Scale, how Village Capital empowers startups to solve global challenges. We'll explore how Village Capital's unique model supports founders, drives impact, and shapes the future of investing with purpose. Peter, Village Capital, welcome. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Nice to have you.
Thank you. Nice to be here. And I'm the CEO at Village Capital, and I started with the company about 7 years ago. And I focus on people, technology, and innovation for Village Capital.
Well, Village Capital has a bold mission, unlocking social and financial capital for impact creating startups. How did this mission come to life, and why does it matter now more than ever?
So the way it came to life was we had two co-founders, Ross Baird and Victoria Fram, and they had a hypothesis back in 2009. And that was that entrepreneurs who have lived experience with a societal or environmental challenge would be in the best position to solve those problems. And further, this was sort of the revolutionary part of their idea. Entrepreneurs would also have a better local and cultural context for evaluating other companies solving the same problems for investment, rather than a remote investor in a big tech hub like Silicon Valley. So they started two things. They started a nonprofit, which is Village Capital, and also VilCap Investments, which was an associated seed fund to test that hypothesis on whether entrepreneurs could select the best performing and best return on investment companies.
Yeah, that's interesting. How does Village Capital identify and support founders who are tackling the world's toughest problems?
So yeah, where impact comes in, we decided very early on to focus on entrepreneurs solving some of the world's biggest problems. And so we focus on early stage companies that are working on climate innovation and adaptation, economic mobility, and equitable access to essential services. And so the way we identify the participants in our work is we start with a problem statement and a location. So just to give you an example, improving economic mobility for women in sub-Saharan Africa, or reducing food waste in the United States. So there's a variety of different sectors that we work across and different problem statements, but we start with one of those to then source companies working on those things. And we do it through open applications. We have a very broad network of ecosystem players around the world. And so we put the word out that we're starting a program around one of those themes, and entrepreneurs apply. And we usually get somewhere in the hundreds of applications for any given program.
Well, that's amazing. That's so interesting. It's not, and it sounds like a very unique model compared to, what I've heard before.
Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons we're a nonprofit is because we are really focused on impact. And, most of the lion's share of venture capital on the planet goes to three places, which are California, New York, and Massachusetts. And so there are a lot of talented entrepreneurs around the world who, again, have that lived experience that we talked about earlier, who have great ideas for how to solve those problems. And they just need some capital to get that done. And so that's sort of our unique focus, is in the impact space.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's making our world a better place, which is what we need. So from your perspective as COO, how do you keep the mission aligned with day-to-day operations?
Sure. So I know at a lot of different companies, COO can mean a lot of different things. So my focus is primarily on people, technology, and innovation. And so We make sure our people are mission oriented and know the space, that our technology makes our people more efficient at getting those impact outcomes and measuring those impacts. And then we're constantly innovating. We've created a framework at Village Capital called TIDE, which stands for Test, Iterate, Disseminate to Evolve the System. So we're really looking at systemic change in the investing and entrepreneurship space. And we do that through sort of a cycle of constant innovation.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So people have to be ready for change because with innovation, there's change. So,
Absolutely.
Get ready. Yeah. So can you share a story of a startup that really amplifies the impact Village Capital strives for?
Yeah, there are so many. We've worked with over 1,800 startups in 70 different countries. So I'll zoom in on one from a 2024 program. So just last year, they're here in the US. It's a company called ThriveLink, and they're based in Missouri. And Kwame Liddell is the founder and CEO of ThriveLink. And what they do is that they simplify access to safety net programs for under-resourced families using voice-based AI. So this falls into that access to essential services problem area that we focus on. And so they're using AI to figure out how to get those services to the folks who normally wouldn't have access.
Right.
It does.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And what type of services?
Yeah, so they have a voice-based system where folks can apply for social services, and it's available in 75 different languages, which the AI enables. And so, in about 15 months, they facilitated over $1 million in applications for 8,700 people, and they've been able to do that while achieving a 75% engagement rate among people over 70, which is double the industry average. So their solution has gotten traction and is generating impact there in Missouri.
Wow. Well, what has been one of the most rewarding milestones during your time as COO?
Yeah, so one of the things that we did in 2023 that I was excited to be a part of was that we designed and launched a tool on our Abaca web app called Capital Explorer. And what it does is it equips founders to learn about a variety of different financing options. So that includes venture capital and debt, but also a lot of new emerging structures and some that are just not used as often. And so what a company can do is they can go in and answer about 15 questions about their business, where they are now, where they'd like to go. And it then provides them with a suitability assessment across these different financing options, and they can learn about each one and understand what implications it would have if they took, say, a rev share type of financing or crowdfunding or other types of financing.
Okay, so you can kind of, is it kind of like, I don't know if I've got this wrong or right, but like an app that they can put in scenarios?
Mm-hmm,
okay,
exactly.
Yeah, I want to try that. That sounds really cool. So you're going to have to give the link to us later, or, we can put it in the slides because.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is there a certain sector that you guys work with, or?
No, we really are sector agnostic. We work across a lot of different sectors, but they all have something to do with those impact themes that I mentioned.
Yep.
So
okay.
we work in health, education,
things
a
for
lot of
children.
climate stuff. Yeah, yeah, and like social services. That's
social services. Yeah.
Own,
Oh yeah, yeah. And I worked a lot in the nonprofit sector in my insurance career, because that's who I was trying to protect since at least the last 8 years. So yeah, I know what their struggles are.
Yeah, I did want to clarify that these are for-profit startups, so they're just working in an impactful way. So
I understand that. Yeah,
thinking about their business model. Yeah.
Yeah. You just guys have a nonprofit.
Yeah, we are a nonprofit. That's right.
So every growth journey comes with challenges. What were some key lessons Village Capital had to learn along the way?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest lessons that we've learned is how to create and get a global team working together while also having a local presence. in a lot of different places. So we have employees in 5 different countries around the world, and we've
Wow.
done programs in over 70 countries. So we balancing that global presence with local expertise and network is an important part of what we've learned, and that's taken many years to sort of perfect. And
I can't even imagine, you're globally helping entrepreneurs that are going to help their communities and bring jobs and better facilities maybe. And, so, and it's great that it's global, because we know how lucky we are here, regardless of, things that happen, but there's others that really need that. So I think it's really great mission, and I love what you're doing. So, what do you think other accelerators or capital providers could learn from your approach?
yeah, so we actually train other entrepreneur support organizations. We call them ESOs. And we also do a lot of co-delivery recently, where we will work with local ESOs on the ground and help them learn how to run our programs. And then they can either run them on their own, or we can run them together depending on the situation. We also have the platform I mentioned. It's called Abaca, that any other accelerator could use if they choose to sign up for that.
Okay, right.
And then we've also published research based on our methodology, which we could also provide links for. There was a major study that we did with a university called Flipping the Power Dynamics, which is about that peer selection model. We sort of skipped over peer selection, but it's how effective peers are at selecting the who would get investment at the end of a program.
Okay. Huh. So, what is the program or initiatives you're delivering the strongest results for startups right now?
Yeah, I mentioned co-delivery, and so there's a program right now in sub-Saharan Africa. It's in 5 different countries there, and we are co-delivering accelerators using the peer selection methodology in those 5 countries with 5 local ESOs who are actually working directly with those entrepreneurs.
So, have you been to Africa?
I have. I got the opportunity before the pandemic. Unfortunately, I haven't been back since then, but it was in 2018. I was able to go to Kenya and spend some time with a program there. And then I got a little opportunity to go on at least to the local safaris, and then to Lamu, which is on the coast of the Indian Ocean, which was
Very
very beautiful.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool. That's exciting. So, how does Village Capital balance social impact with financial sustainability?
Very carefully. One thing we've done recently is there was an article about nonprofit end games, which is sort of like, how are you going to scale impact over time? What are your strategies for that? And one that we selected sort of for our future strategy is called the replication end game. And so the idea is we we really can only get so big if we're linearly trying to grow our organization size to run the same programs. So there's a certain limit on funding available and team capacity to do that. Whereas if we can replicate what we do with other players in the ecosystem, sort of what I just described before, we can have that multiplier effect. So we can keep the team financially sustainable from that perspective of about the same size while still amplifying our.
It's interesting, but it's a little confusing for me. So I'm gonna definitely learning right now. So, what are you seeing in the global entrepreneur ecosystem today that excites you?
Well, so our programs have always been about companies using technology to solve these problems. And of course, artificial intelligence is certainly changing the game in a hurry. And it's both exciting and overwhelming.
Absolutely.
FOMO is real. So I
It
would say that's
is. It
probably the
is.
most, that's capturing everyone's attention right now as a
Yeah,
trend.
it's everywhere. And it's everywhere. All of a sudden, everywhere. Yeah. All right. So, how are founders responding to your model compared to when Village Capital first started?
We've always had very strong net promoter scores, NPS. I think the biggest difference recently is the sort of the trends in how you finance a startup and venture. Shark Tank and all the other pop culture references to venture made it sort of like a monolithic way. This is how you build a business, is you try to get venture capital. But really only 1% of companies ever get venture capital. And of those, only 20% survive. So it's a very, small portion of entrepreneurs. And so we've come to recognize that we work with companies that are eligible and appropriate for venture and help them get access to venture capital. But there are a lot of other companies that can benefit from other ways of financing. And so we're really starting to explore that in our programs. And that's being led by the entrepreneurs who are interested in other ways of funding their
No,
business.
and you're obviously qualifying whoever you're going to, give the money to as an entrepreneur. Do you think that you'll use AI to be able to find the low liars and, the ones in the middle where you might have to look at versus, oh yeah, we know that this one's going to, succeed, or their percentage of succeeding is going to be here. So that's one of the things I learned in my class from John Hopkins at the
Yeah.
AI.
And I think that's where AI is both a huge opportunity and a risk. On the opportunity side, we're able to take some of our methodologies like peer diligence and increase the access to that. Right now, it's a very high touch program where our people facilitate these peer one-on-one sessions, and it's a lot of work and a lot of time. By using AI and customizing, training it with a lot of different sectoral knowledge and other things, could an AI be another peer? So
Right. But
they're
one of
able,
the issues is the bias that you worry about that goes
right?
into
That's the risk,
right.
because typically you're training AI with existing data, and since most investment decisions in the past have followed a very specific pattern, the big risk is that AI will actually amplify bias based on past decisions rather than mitigate it. And
Yeah, because if the historical data is biased, it's just going to bring the bias right into the AI.
that's right.
So,
And it's been shown to happen. It's already happening.
oh yeah, it's absolutely.
There are
And
job,
that's when you're doing AI, they want you to have all these different, different people around so that you're getting ideas from everyone, to make sure that makes sense as a whole the best you
yeah.
can.
And that's the other way that Village Capital is approaching this, is that we've long looked at how do we mitigate bias in investment decision making, and peer selection is one way of doing that, because the decision isn't only being made by a remote investor somewhere. So we're going to extend that into our exploration of AI. And so not only are we looking to build tools to AI enable some of our proven frameworks, but we're also thinking about how can we create tools and bias identification tools and sample data to try to suss out some of those risks, and then distribute that. Once we have a good set of those things, distribute that to other folks that are actually developing AI systems. They can use those tools to improve the bias that their systems will definitely have if they're just using historical data.
So what are you doing in your organization for your employees for upskilling them in AI? Because that's one of the big things that that all businesses should be working on. So just, what are you guys doing at Village Capital?
Yeah, thankfully, one of the things about Village Capital is it's not technology averse. The team it's almost the opposite problem. Our team is moving so quickly and trying so many things. It's sometimes hard to make sure that we have some
clicking too
guardrails.
fast before instructed to do so.
Wait, don't put all of our IP into that model yet. So we have sort of the opposite problem that I think a lot of organizations have. But we know that because it is changing so quickly, and it went from large language models to agentic like overnight, as now they're together. So who knows what the next thing is going to be? We are trying to stay at that surface level, try a lot of different things, experiment with things. That tide
small
framework.
wins. They say small wins. What processes you can do that hopefully don't change your SOP just being able to automate it, unless your SOP needs to be changed because it's not working.
Sure,
but,
sure.
So, and then they say small wins because you don't want to try to do this huge project because that's most likely going to fail. Well, or it's going to give it a bigger chance of failing, and then the most important part is having clean data.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about it is a key part of our strategy related to sort of responsible and ethical use is collective intelligence. So we
Absolutely.
know that the job displacement with AI is real. And so we're doing a program right now with Google in the Middle East and North Africa region around helping business organizations train small and medium-sized businesses to prepare and upskill their workers for AI. And internally, we're looking at how do we leverage both the unique human strengths that we have, things like building trust through relationships with investors and accelerators, with things that AI can do better than humans: analysis, prediction, data, repetitive processes, automation, things like that.
Also, in my new business, I want to work in the nonprofit sector, helping them with donor engagement, storytelling, just making sure the thank you notes are going out and keeping in front of your donors so they don't forget about you, or making sure they hear about your event, and then looking for those small wins that can help them. I have a flower shop that they have problem with the routing of their flower delivery. New one comes in and then they have to reroute the whole thing. I mean, AI can fix that. So that's, a little thing that's going to make a big difference. So what do you see as the biggest opportunities and challenges for impacting investing in the next 5 to 10 years?
I think that on the challenge side, there's obviously the challenge of the macroeconomic environment. There's a lot of political pressure on climate, social safety nets, and diversity initiatives. So yeah, a lot of headwinds right now to face, and that makes our work even more important.
Absolutely.
It makes it more challenging, but also more important. And so again, I think
because if you give up, then what are we going to do?
Right, exactly.
We need to keep that momentum going, because if we stop, it's, we're going to be in way worse shape.
Yeah, so we want to leverage where the money is going, and AI is one of those areas. So leverage that to then use AI for good as a way of. So we see that as a big opportunity as well.
So how is Village Capital preparing to meet the needs of the next generation of founders?
Yeah, so I mentioned sort of tech enabling our work, and I mentioned Abaca and AI and some other things. So we are looking at the peer diligence approach because it's something that we do uniquely and has been very effective in training entrepreneurs to be ready for capital.
It works.
And so we're looking at how do we make that more accessible, easier to do than the current high touch approach of a 6-week workshop, which is what we do on the humans.
Yeah. All right. If you could give one piece of advice to entrepreneurs listening, what would you want to solve global challenges? What would it be?
I would say learn your why. Why are you compelled to start a business? And assuming it's to make the world a better place, then use that in your decision making about your aspiration for the business.
I love that.
Are you wanting to scale a startup to be acquired and be a serial entrepreneur? Or are you wanting to stay with a business in the long term to see things through? That's such a critical question early on, and it can really change.
If you're not going to be in it for the long haul, for the long haul, then that's not, I would say, not what you're looking for.
That's right.
Gotcha. Well, this has been great. Peter, thank you so much for joining me today for Impact at Scale, how Village Capital empowers startups to solve global challenges. Your insights on impact investing and the future of entrepreneurship were inspiring. So for listeners, you can learn more at vilcap.com, vilcap.com. This has been Mike Check, The Next Chapter. I'm your host, Kristin Guglielmo. Until next time.